Well, happy Sunday morning, all. I watched Ambrose Ralph, Alberta to the Point, this morning. He got into Daniel Smith and the Liberal Butler, who has been on our team for quite a while. And there's lots going back to absolutely the Alberta Party here in Alberta and the Liberal Party of Alberta. In fact, it took a staunch conservative who's not even a separatist, him and his brother, he's a friend of mine, we work together, staunch conservative. Doesn't matter what the room is or how many people are in it taking up breathing space. This man is loyal as his brother to the Conservative Party of Canada and any federal conservative as he was for Jason Kenney. And I give this story because I like to effect change. I like to show people truths. And I took this gentleman, I took him to absolutely the Liberal Party of Alberta board meeting, Edmonton, Alberta. As a separatist, I went and met them. I've met every party in Alberta, their board, their legal board, not the public board that so many people think is the board of a party, not the legally registered board. See, I go to that. I've taught people lots about politics from all walks of life, and why I get into this story is I take this staunch conservative. There's no breaking him. There's no changing him. Doesn't matter what you show him. He is CPC forever and a day. You will never change him. So I take him to the Liberal Party of Alberta just to show him what that party is. And I say, listen, I'm going to show you something. I know you're going to want to get mad. I mean, I want to get mad too, but I want you to see that party for what it is. And of course, we went in there and it's all doctors. One, they're all foreign born. There wasn't a single multi-generational Canadian there. They were all first generation Canadian. All had UK accents. Not one of them born in Canada. Clearly all wealthy, all in the Canadian Medical Association, and all strong ties to the UK. That's the Liberal Party of Alberta, the real registered board. Now, David Kahn was the leader at the time he was there. They were trying to talk to us all about my version of independence, and this is going back quite years. And then I have a staunch conservative with me who stomached it, actually. A few drinks, he stomached it, went through it. He was surprised, but I think that reinforced him for the conservatives. Now, that's a staunch conservative who doesn't matter what I could share with him and a lot of you, because the reality is, like Brian, Jean, Ambrose, Ralph, we share a lot of the same people, not entirely the same people. I mean, Brian Jean's following tremendously more, but I think we can all agree, and absolutely for myself, those conservatives supporting Daniel Smith, a lot of them are from my following. If you watch my following, there's a huge drop-off. Some videos, it's a massive reach. Other videos, it's an entire drop-off. Doesn't matter how well I articulate posts or written stories or factual presentations. You can clearly see people come back for this topic. But if I get into Alberta and the state of the parties or the people running today for UCP, whoop, everybody drops off. Nobody wants to hear it. And folks, that's institutionalization. Now, that's not the entirety of my following. My loyal followers stick with me and they understand what I talk about. But there's the pile that as soon as you disrupt that institutionalized belief, and specifically for me as an Alberta separatist, a real one, who brought a real platform, who ran for Alberta independence in real reality, not autonomy, not more powers of divisional powers for Alberta against the federal crown, but actual independence from Canada. And when you do that, you get a specific type of Albertan. And largely, yes, they're conservative-minded individuals. That following has fallen off on me any time I get into the reality of the political party system that threatens their belief structure. They've already predetermined. And for Ambrose, Ralph, Brian, Jean, I was hijacked by Danielle Smith literally right from the start. And folks, there's not a political party in Alberta. Pretty much now Canada, as I did my tour across Canada, I made sure to meet almost all of them, at least the major players, and even some of the smaller players like myself and my narratives. And we've met. You'll see that there's a whole bunch of political party leaders from many parties on my Facebook. Geopolitics, Canadian politics. I'm chock-loaded with people, folks. And why I'm getting into this is this, for Brian, Jean, and Ambrose Ralph, is that no matter what you say, I've been fighting institutionalization of the average Canadian for some time. I am deathly against the crown. I've been fighting what is the Laurentian elite for quite some time. But there's a problem when we get into this institutionalization, is that there were two founding federal parties of Confederation. Absolutely the Liberals, that's your Justin Trudeau, his entire family, friends, all the way down the line. These are the silver spoons who didn't earn any of their money. All their massive wealth was generated through crown exploitation of Canadian citizens, propagating, programming, getting you to donate to them. And when they get into government, they use their position in government to substantially increase their personal wealth. Now that's liberal. And that's been the liberal entitlement since 1871, forever and a day. Absolutely, 1871, absolutely forever and a day. Always will be all liberals. All liberals. And they love the UK crown. You'll find most of the party board, the real legal party board, is from the UK or other attachments of colonials. When we get into the crown, the appointed positions of government, you'll find all across Canada, mostly these appointments are from first-time Canadians, loyalists, absolutely all Commonwealth countries. Yes, you'll get a lot of different colors there, religions and cultures, but one common shared theme is these are all loyalists within the Commonwealth, absolutely sworn to the crown, and they fill the Liberal appointment across the board. Now, that's the Liberal Party of Canada, oldest, most powerful party in Canada that has been manipulating Canadians forever and a day for the entirety of Canada. And that's reality. When you look at the real legally registered boards, provincially and federally, you will find nothing but a ton of first-generation Canadians, meaning they immigrated here, and largely in a massive high percentile are loyal to the crown. They're all from the Commonwealth. They're all loyal to that system of oppression that is and entirely is Canada. We call that Laurentian elite. But is that the end all and be all of the crown? No, not even close. There is another party called the Liberal Conservative Party. It's currently your CPC, but it was the Progressive Conservative. Progressive is the word for liberal, progressive ideas. Progressive Conservative, aka Liberal Conservative. aka the Liberal Conservative Party of Canada since Canada's inception, coming into power after the Liberals. Liberals had the first prime ministership. Liberal Conservatives won the second. And this has been the back, forth, back, forth. It's like a two-stroke engine in Canada. Forget everything else federally. Boom, 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 two cylinders. You get absolute liberalism of loyalist crown, or you get a variation of liberal conservative crown. All designed entirely like the Liberals, with a smidgen of a little bit of power to once again throw some rice out there for the third class. All crown, all colonial, all Laurentian elite, with a little bit of pepper to ease off on the throttle of the first class on the third class. But make no mistake, forever and a day for all of Canada's history, this loyalty to central Canada, again, upper and lower Canada, is forever and a day. When you learn this, you'll understand where people's loyalties lie. Case in point. Well done, Ambrose. I just did the same presentation early this morning and nobody gravitated to it because nobody wants to know the truth. Nobody who's institutionalized into liberal conservative federally, which is most of the country, folks. Look at the votes. More than 2/3 of Canadians are either loyal liberal or loyal liberal conservative. It's institutionalized. It's inside us. We don't know any better. We don't grow up with civics. We don't have rational thinking on it. You were programmed since birth to be a loyal, crown-serving peasant. It works very well. It's worked very well for 950 years. Lots of people in the world woke up. World War II people woke up, but Canada has never woken up. The iron hand of that training and institutionalization is very strong. The propaganda is huge. It's huge. It's been perfected for 950 years. Australia, New Zealand, and many other crown colonial countries. Many are waking up. Are they waking up fast enough? No. The United States woke up, but they're sliding into it again. The point I'm trying to make here is Canadians, when they face the truth, it's fight or flight. And I'm sorry, but the Crown has taught the bulk of the population flight. Flight right back to liberal or liberal conservative. It's ingrained in you. It's educated to you. It's taught to you. The parties take turns throwing crumbs at you to win your support. Always the lesser of two evils. And when you come along with new ideas, they are quick to plant people to hijack them. Daniel Smith is just one of those hijacks. And Brian Jean and Ambrose Ralph, this is for you. And I know, Ambrose, we haven't always seen eye to eye. And you're relatively new to politics. I am not. And I've been involved in it a very, very long time. When I say this, it's not to be diminishing, but a long time ago, a couple of years ago, you said a real leader wouldn't quit the party. You said to me, but Ambrose, I was battling Daniel Smith, your Mr. Butler, Daniel Smith's left hand, Sharon McLeese, very wealthy, and I'm very poor. I battled them tooth and nail each and every day of my narrative for Alberta independence. Not a day went by that they weren't there. With the full racism Absolutely. If you've never listened to Sharon McLeese, Daniel Smith's best friend, a fraudster, a criminal, Brian Jean knows who she is. Butler, as you all know him now, I hate to burst your bubble, but Albertans and separatists alike and these conservative, progressive conservatives, liberal conservatives have known that all along, and they don't care. When you go to one of Daniel Smith's events sponsored by the CPC, I've watched several of them. I see all the players. I watched this happen to Brian Jean against one Jason Kenney. Are you guys ready for the future? The globe of future? And again, I'm going to say it. God doesn't speak to me. I don't have any visions of the future. I don't have any magical powers. My only magical power, so to speak, is my ability to read large volumes and process lots of information. A blessing from God. My mom was a library technician, nearly a photographic memory. It's unbelievable. Now, I'm not in my mom's caliber on that, but little did I know I can read large volumes of information and process it. And I've learned in my older years to use that to my advantage. And I can tell you, just as everything I've seen and read in history and in politics and what I saw happen to Brian Jean, I can tell you is happening right now, as it happened to me. Liberal, progressive conservatives, NDP, all together to assassinate, to destroy. And even in my party, Daniel Smith's loyal family members who failed to disclose that all got my party. And Ambrose, you say, well, what kind of leader would resign and walk away? The poison pill of the establishment of those loyalists was well implanted throughout my party, literally nearly from start to finish, at least at the height of things. They all came forward as the work was coming together, as no matter how much money they had, they couldn't get it done. And why would they get behind that? They're socialists, socialist extreme. When I say that, they're first class Laurentian elites who believe they're superior to everybody else. They will lie, cheat, steal, no problem. Anything for the crown. And folks, I'm going to tell you that I can say this without any reservations, and I can predict the future. Daniel Smith, and I'm sorry to say, is going to win the leadership of UCP because the Liberals and NDP in the province of Alberta know that if it becomes Rachel Notley versus Danielle Smith, Rachel Notley's going to take it. Conservatives all know this. The federal conservatives, the Liberals all know this. And that's good. They would rather the progressive, the liberal establishment, and Notley is pure liberal establishment. She destroyed, this is for those conservatives, those Alberta conservatives who are small business owners, contractors, or skilled workforce, trained skilled workforce, not in the public sector or on the public tit money. And then there's a lot of you, but it's not enough. I just want you to understand something here, that you, by all means, must, in the Laurentian elite system, be made to pay forever and a day for all of their aggrandizement, of all of their first class. It's always been the way in Canada. And they will ensure that it's better it's Notley, as she sold out. There was a time when NDP party under Thomas Mulcair, for those small business, private sector workers and contractors, those lower level conservatives that used to make the Conservative Party great and were the bread and butter and staple of the Conservative Party. You may not have known NDP at that time under Thomas Mulcair, but they were transformed, and by who? Liberal-loving environmental activist Rachel Notley, crown sworn lawyer, a bar, who swore that oath, proved her loyalty to the Liberals, endorsed Justin Trudeau, got involved, Butler, and many others. They're not the only ones. The Alberta Party, I can show you the Alberta Party. I can show you more than just Sohi, our last Edmonton mayor. And you want to talk abuse and sickness and the thieving, the lying, the cheating, the financing at the municipal level here in Alberta, at the Edmonton mayoral level and the Calgary mayoral level, I can tell you, corrupted Laurentian elite, pure liberals who exist on destroying the federalism, going to that unitary crown colonial state. Absolute Laurentian elite. They invested themselves through sustainable development goals out of the UK, a pure unitary constitutional monarchy with zero codification. They destroyed all 9 of their regions long ago without so much as a fuss from the peasant class. Rachel Notley destroyed NDP, transformed it into the Liberals' puppet machine. Butler is just the tip of the iceberg. We can go through 4 mayoral candidates. We can go through the sustainable cities, 40 of them. I can bring forward more than just Butler. I can bring forward literally 13 financiers of this corruption, which is what is Canada today. Rachel Notley embraced it, went forward, and they know, and they would rather see, and this is Jason Kenney, he's in on it too. He resigned on the property rights commission that they had assigned. He resigned when he realized that his majority of MLAs were going to pursue provincial constitutionalism. The worst thing that could ever happen for the Liberal Party of Canada or the Liberal Conservative Party of Canada, aka Liberals and Progressive Conservatives, very alive and well today, always been Canada. The last thing they ever want is provinces pursuing any real true rights of the people, listed mostly in Section 92, but we can go right through all the way up to 108 in your 212-page constitutional acts. 4 parts, 11 amendments. Every legal greatest mind in the world will tell you this. Richard Albert, Canada's current living greatest constitutional expert, will tell you this. There's more from Toronto and Montreal, but guess who they work for now in the world today? One Richard Albert. They have migrated to the States too, because the States will purchase the intellectual prowess of Canada, and they run away because you're locked. You fell into swearing the Crown Oath. If you remain in Canada with your higher mind and you try to breach, they'll take away your credentials. So you're best off flying away from Canada if you're any kind of good human being. And they did. All of our greatest minds are gone. They keep saying, well, why does everybody keep leaving Canada? Well, if you have a brain, you develop yourself and you realize what Canada is, you're not going to stay because it's hard to change. People don't want to change. People will believe in the free stuff. It's stable. It's secure. I'm in a corral. I'm a sheep. I'm a cow. We can go on and use every analogy there is. We can try to educate. We can try to get minds going. But clearly, all 3 of us, our followings have fallen off. I'm not a slouch either. Almost 5,000 friends. I still have almost 6,700 followers. If I make a post that doesn't touch on Liberal Conservative or the Liberal Party as it really is and the institutionalization, I do well. If I try to go into truths of the system how it is, following falls off. No, I don't want to hear it. No, I don't want to hear it. And I think of all 3 of us, the fuel behind Rachel Notley is I battled for those supporters. Like I said, Sharon McLeese, Danielle Smith, her family was vested heavy into my political party. Now, none of them disclosed that. Later, I'd find out serious criminal backgrounds, completely lied to Canadians, lied to our party, lied when we did our vetting process, weren't honest. Radicalism, extremism that doesn't make any sense. It didn't make sense to me then, and it certainly doesn't make sense now, unless it's actually a liberal planted tool to derail, and to see Rachel Notley win the next election, or anyone loyal to the Liberal Party of Canada, or at least the Liberal Conservative Party of Canada, aka the Progressive Conservatives. And I'm sorry, but the Jason Kenney types, the Casey Madhu lovers, not me, and I've often caught them time and time again, always in bed with the Liberals, with that Laurentian elite. Hardly any of them work for a living. They're all sucking on you like a tit, and that's how they made their life. People don't want to hear things like Pierre Poilievre has only worked 15 months of his entire life, lives in a big fancy house, kids, wife, all of it, has every wonderful thing. He even spent $10,000 on one room in his house just on panel boarding. He likes to brag about, except for he never earned one of those dollars. It was all from you and donations, pure, absolute socialism, and his ability to lie and bullshit you. What he puts in writing is not what he tells you. Danielle Smith's the same thing. I busted the judge in Alberta, another Danielle Smith loyal supporter. I did that in Edmonton, Alberta, live for a pile of tradesmen and some organizations, about 360 people in a room. I destroyed him. He was another one who lied about the Liberal idea of a provincial sales tax. He was a liar too. I was able to bust him live on stage. I think live people like that when they can look it up on their phones right there in live forum and absolutely bust somebody of that caliber live, and a little guy like myself. Well, Danielle Smith did the exact same thing. She called the same policy forward, but yet everybody puts their head down. It's not true. It's not true. It's not true. Casey Madhu was in charge of justice for the province of Alberta. If none of you have read Section 92, subsection 14, justice belongs to the provincial jurisdiction. The Minister of Justice. Hello, Canadians, Albertans, who ordered everybody arrested? Who ordered the fines? Who empowered AHS and the courts? It was Casey Madhu. He had the pastors arrested. He saw that happen. His ministry. The federal government did not apply any of the fines or have any authority. Are you ready? Zero, none whatsoever. Absolutely 110% of any municipal police force. Alberta has quite a few. They have the Federation of Police. Absolutely all city police in Edmonton and Calgary, through their police commissioners, will tell you the Minister of Justice and the Minister of Health ordered all of it. There was zero authority. If you ever want to know, legally, no municipality in the province of Alberta or in any other province is allowed to mandate anything on their own. They're strictly given a one-page set of guidelines. Now, each municipality varies. But if a councillor or a mayor steps out of it, they're gone. They're gone. They do exactly what they're told as all their power, and I repeat, all of municipal power in every province and territory in Canada comes from the provincial government. Truth. Liberal, conservative. There are crown deals made between Lieutenant Governor and Governor General, the absolute autocratic powers of premiers and absolutely Prime Minister. They each appoint their cabinet and ministries alike. Pure autocratic crown power. All the other MLAs and MPs, whether it's legislature or parliament, are put on a back bench. And you be good boys and girls. If you want to see the money, you'll do what you're told. Constituents, that's not in the Constitution. The constituents aren't even in the Constitution. Neither are the Savage Indians. That is Canada with the Liberals and the Liberal Conservative Party forever and a day. Call it CPC, PC, we can go on and on. The Liberals have always been the Liberals, and it will always be that way. People talk about controlled opposition. It's controlled MLA, controlled MP. It's called pure autocratic power of the crown. It's clearly written for you in the first 2/3 of your Constitution. I suggest every Canadian reads 212 pages. If you haven't read Consolidated Acts, 212 pages of the Constitution, 1867 and the 1982, the 11 amendments, I don't know what to tell you. In USA, it's mandated in school. You have to learn your civics. You have to learn your civil rights. They're all found in provincial division of powers, or for U.S. state division of powers. Even in Russia, the regional division of powers, because they're all constituted, codified in the regions and in the 50 states. Not any of it ever, in any time in Canada, has ever been codified for any of the provinces and territories. This is no accident. We are one country of a small handful who has never codified any of their division of powers for the Federalists. We are an extreme minority. And what does that lead to? Pure autocracy, forever and a day. Supreme institutionalization, and there's no reason to make Canadians any wiser. This works extremely well for the tyrants and dictators. There are really only two parties, liberal, conservative. This is your Laurentian elite. They're the ones who made sure Brian Jean, who would not give his soul to Ottawa, big mistake, Brian. There's no such thing as loving the West or loving Alberta. Big mistake. Loving your constituents. You will never see a profile in any cabinet, and the progressive conservatives will work against you every time you run in any position of power. And they have. How many times have they burnt you? How many times have they pulled their little strings, lying their faces off, just like the Liberals? Remember, everybody, liberal conservative. When you figure this out, and you figure out the crown of Canada and the institutionalization, maybe you'll join a small minority of us, a small needle moved. A little bit. It's not great. It's not enough. We're not even nowhere near 3% of the country. But I know in my works so far, I've moved the needle quite a bit from independence to constitutionalism and actually fixing Canada. I know Brian Jean's heart's in the right place. I understand he must work within the system. He's running for premier unless he wants to be a fringe minority. But sadly, for both Ambrose Ralph and my good friend Brian Jean, the stage is already set. The fix is in. Even Casey Madhu and all his corruption. People want to be lied to in Canada. They're conditioned that way. They're institutionalized that way. Tell me what I want to hear. It's the abused wife. People talk about Alberta being abused in Confederation. Well, every Canadian is abused in Confederation. It's just some are abused more. Some are abused more. The corruption of Ukraine is only matched anywhere else in the world by Alberta to Canada. Yeah. $52 billion a year, at least it was for Ukraine, disappeared every year over and over again since 2014. It ranked them in number 3 most corrupt country in the world. And you can go back and look at all the history of it. All of a sudden, oh no, it's not true, that wasn't true. Well, I'm sorry, but you publish that for every year until there's an invasion. They say, oh, let's forget all that. Ukraine's a holier than thou place. No, the people were being abused huge unitarily by a central government as corrupt as what it was in the Soviet Union. And this is the same for Canada with Alberta and Confederation. Not only Alberta, I mean, all the First Peoples have gotten it much worse, but it doesn't help that Alberta has the largest per capita portion of treaty Indians in all of Canada. You've got 1/3. Of course you're going to be abused. Canada's wanted to end the First People forever and a day in its system since 1876. Well documented, well articulated by the Liberals and the Liberal Conservatives, an absolute genocide. And like I said, I release food security for all Canadians, and nobody cares. Nobody cares that Canadians are twice as food insecure as the United States of America. If you're from Alberta, it's much more than that. If you're a Treaty Indian, it's extremely more than that. If you're Inuit, oh my God, alarm bells, they're killing you, they're starving you to death. Literally, not figuratively. Who's doing it? Liberals and liberal conservative alike. Call them progressive, conservative, call it liberal conservative, call it the Liberal Party of Canada. They're all one animal with one objective clearly articulated in your highest laws of the land forever and a day. And they don't stop. No, they don't. They don't quit colonialism. We practice colonialism higher than any other country in the world. During COVID, we were doing it. We're that nutty. We're that institutionalized, and they just laugh. Wow, where can we get citizens like the citizens of Canada? The wealthy, the elite, the globalist agenda? Canada wrote it. The Commonwealth goes, well done. How do you keep those peasants so sequestered? If we could only model the world like Canada, we'd be wealthier than wealthy could ever be. What a great system. Canada won Manchester. They even made a tower for you with a pyramid on the top, bragging about the design called Canada. A design that led to Nazi Germany. People say, oh, that's not true. Oh, yeah? Where did Japan get their colonial aspirations from? Why did they choose that time period? Oh, they learned by going to BC. You can find all that history too. You won't learn that in school. You got to go to a higher education. In fact, you have to leave Canada to learn all those truths. You've got to leave Canada. And then you get out in the higher academic institutions across the entire world and you realize, oh my God, I'm institutionalized in a sick system. Because it can't just be my country. How come majority of the world has learned all this stuff, but my country, it's sequestered? Is it the rest of the world's corrupt, or is it my country that's corrupt? Well, usually it's your country that's corrupt. If you don't believe me, ask all the former Soviets. There's great stories. There's a scientist, a physicist, expert on the multiverse, another Stephen Hawking in the making, much younger. And she came out of the 1991 Albania. Great story on physics and multiverse and what she's figured out about string theory as she's added to all these greats now. She's probably going to win a Pulitzer Prize. But what's funny is when she talks about getting out of the bubble and realizing it's not the rest of the world as she was taught and bred and grown up in. It was her country that did that to her. It was her country that sequestered her. Well, that's Canada. That's Canada. And I don't see an easy way out. But if I was a betting man and everything I've learned, and I'm going to play the game of reading the future, Rachel Notley defeats Danielle Smith for the next Premier of Alberta post-February 2023. If you get Danielle Smith, it's already been decided. Sorry to my friend Brian Jean. Sorry to Ambrose Ralph. But if you guys haven't suspected by the tremendous fall off in both of your feeds, as mine is too, anything to do with the election, it's no accident. It's no accident. Laws in Canada and streaming and the internet and what people get to see is what they want to see. And they don't want the truth. It takes many, many years of education, but when the state is paying for this education to program and institutionalize the citizens, and they're very good at it, they've been doing it for 150 plus years, it's very difficult for you to change people with ideas, even ideas as old as the United States of America and we the people, a tremendously great idea, you would think. But it doesn't fly here in Canada because the programming, the institutionalization laid out by the Liberal Party of Canada and the Conservative Party of Canada is just too great and too well funded. They own the media. I just did a early morning expose on David Cohen Haga, and he's another one who fell off of the Thomas Mulcair tracks, failed unionist, turned wild, extreme, left, liberal. Nobody even likes to read the true story. They don't want to hear about Alison Redford and all of her evil corruption monetarily. People don't want to hear about all the piece of shit women in Alberta's politic history. Nobody wants to hear it. I mean, I could have done on Rachel Notley, but she wasn't listed in his article. But how he rewrites history and it's embraced. And my following doesn't even like it. Most people don't like it. They don't want to hear it. That's the sad truth, folks. And mark my words, 2023, Rachel Notley will defeat Danielle Smith, as has been programmed, has been set up and designed through absolutely monetary corruption and control of the state media to see happen. That's my crystal ball. Not because God told me or not because I hear voices, but because geopolitics, the design of Canada, and everything I've learned and read in my life thus far, the overwhelming weight of evidence supports that reality. And sadly, my friend Brian Jean is not going to win the leadership, because if he did, he would defeat Rachel Notley. And the Conservatives don't want that. Jason Kenney didn't want that. There's a reason why he held off, and he's holding everybody back till October in Alberta. Folks, have you ever heard of a campaign for premiership and an election being run with less than a year in advance? Do you ever heard of a winner for that? No. Rachel Notley's been campaigning for over a year straight with more money, more activity, and the Conservative Liberal Party, the Liberal Conservative Party of Canada, the Laurentian elite, would rather see the Liberals win and keep their Liberal Conservative Liberal system alive and well than ever see anybody who's of real regionalism or who doesn't follow their system come to power, and they spend and invest considerable amounts of money. They pay off, I'm not going to call them journalists anymore, because clearly, if you haven't read David Coleman-Hage's article, I don't know what to tell you. There's not an ounce of truth in it. He lies steadily through. That is a paid propagandist. They're not even journalists anymore. They're paid opinion writing propagandists. And if Canadians don't see that, it's because you're institutionalized. Soviet Union went through it. All those former Soviets, they all went through it. I do Twitter spaces all the time, and it's funny. The U.S. is starting to get institutionalized, drunken on delusions of Marxism and Leninism through Joe Biden. And now the Democrats think, oh, this is great and wonderful, and these utopias, these promised futures, but it's all crown. Former Soviets see it. I had a Polish guy and a whole bunch of former Soviets have come up, and they agree and follow me because they know, and they're like, oh my God, we're watching Americans fall for it. And it's like, well, you've seen nothing. If you had spent some time in Canada, you'd find out Canada is the exact same way. It's sick. It's wrong. It's scary. And unfortunately, it's our reality. Thanks, everybody. That's my video. Share. Get it out there. It's important. I know it's not popular. The truth is never popular. But mark my words, you heard it here. I just told you. And it's not because there's a voice telling me something or magical or anything else. It's the reality of the institution we're in. It's already been decided. Thanks. That's my video. Bye now.